Good morning guys, it's the Wiltshire Rider here. Welcome to part 2 of my long-term review on my Honda Varadero XL 1000 VA, to give it its full title. Even though we're on a different day, as you can see, my petrol light's on again. So on this bike, when the bike's on the side stand, the petrol light will come on, and then hopefully in a mile or so, it will go out again. So it's a good indication that I know I'm getting close to reserve. I've got 170 miles on the clock for this tank, and I filled it right up to the brim, the full 25 litres. So hopefully that light will go out in a minute, and I'll get over 200 miles before the light comes on again. If not, that will be slightly disappointing, because that's what normally happens. Still haven't got rid of my sticky brake. I think some major surgery on the front brake is going to have to take place. There you go, that light's gone out now. Anyway, I've talked about the weight, I've talked about the vibration, I've said that I love the way this engine runs, and I love the low down torque of the V engine, and I've also talked about how I love my V engines in general, V4s, V twins. I do actually like them. One thing I haven't talked about that much is the seating position. So, as I've said, it's nice wide handlebars. All the buttons are lovely. They all make a good solid click when you touch them. None of them are, it's too old to be like these little touch sensitive thingies. I don't know what they're called, like on the Triumphs. It's just when you touch them, they touch like a little metal sensor, don't they? I believe, anyway. Could be completely wrong. So with these, you're actually pushing buttons and clicking. They click as you push them, so I like that. I like the feel that you've actually activated something when you push a button. The general riding position is lovely. I could ride all day, as I've said before. My feet are slightly back. I would say they're sort of kind of level with my bum, but for me that's a comfortable position. I'm 5'8" on a good day, and it feels just right for me. The handlebars, I don't have to reach forward too much. There's a slight lean forward, but it means I'm not sat all my weight on my tailbone, which is good. I'm just sat slightly forward, and there's plenty of room to sort of move around on the seat. It's a very big seat. I tend to, obviously, like most riders, sit in the one position, but you can move around on the seat if you need to. The dials are lovely and clear. I love the dials. I love the old style dials. Although this bike has a fairing and a screen, I'm more of a naked bike kind of person. But when you ride in all weathers, and lately it's been very cold and very windy, the screen is a godsend really, so I can't moan about that. But I love the actual style of the dials. I love watching the needle move. It's all part of the experience of riding. Yes, the roads are still muddy. I doubt if the camera's picking it up. I think the camera is slightly not blurred, but it's not as clear as it could be. I'm waiting for, on the drift camera, it's actually got a little screw-on camera lens cover, and I'm waiting for one to come through, so hopefully that'll make the picture a little bit more clearer, because I've got it on HD. The recent icy weather, I think, has ruined some of the roads around here. There's some massive potholes. So yes, the riding position is very comfortable. I've put an aftermarket screen on, which I've talked about, and I've got this flip-up screen, which keeps the wind out of my eyes. Mirrors are excellent. They don't vibrate that much, or if they do, I've probably got used to it, but I can see clearly behind me, and there's no problem with the mirrors. Everything is obviously, I suppose you call it old school now. It's a cable clutch, it's a cable throttle. There's no electronics on this bike. It's not even a fuel gauge, you just get a fuel light. One thing I would have liked on this bike is a fuel gauge, but I can't say it makes that much difference because you just get used to things. heated grips, which come in handy lately. Never used to use heated grips. Well, it's the first bike I've had with heated grips actually, and when I got them I don't know why, I was kind of reluctant to put them on, but now if it's mildly cold I put them on. They're great. They keep your hands nice and warm, and that warmth does sort of transfer up through the body, so I could see how a heated seat would be good as well. My journeys aren't really long enough to justify spending a lot of money. I mean, you're looking at, with postage, around £500 for a heated seat, aftermarket heated seat for this bike, and that's probably more than the bike's worth now with the age and the mileage. So I have been tempted, but when you ride to a budget you have to consider these things, and my journeys aren't long enough for that. Thank you, sir. So yes, seated position is lovely. Annoyingly, like a lot of bikes, when you put your foot down on this bike, the foot peg does get in the way of your leg. Let's go this way because this lady's going very, very slow. Yeah, so when you sort of come to a junction, or you just stop in general and put your foot down, your leg hits the actual foot peg. I've got used to it like many things over the years, but as you can see, look, it hits. So you just have to adjust where you put your leg, and you have to be very careful anyway with this bike because of the weight, where you park and where you stop. In saying that, the foot pegs are very comfortable. They're a nice size, they're rubber top, so your foot tends to stay on them. They don't, on some bikes I've ridden, your feet tend to slide off the pegs, or sometimes when you're on a bouncy road they can bob about. But these are great, and my former boots, which I've yet to do a review on, they've got a slight heel, so they slot into the foot peg lovely. My knees, they're not uncomfortably bent, and again, for me and my height and my leg length, my knees slot into the petrol tank lovely as well. If you squeeze your legs together on the petrol tank, you can feel the warmth of the engine coming through on a cold day, but if you just have your legs loose and relax, you don't really feel any heat from the engine at all. Even in the summer, this bike seems to dissipate the heat from the engine very well. I've never really noticed myself getting hot, so that's a good thing. And as I say, if you squeeze your legs and clamp the tank, you can feel the heat, so that's quite good on the cold days recently. I've managed to keep my legs fairly warm with my leathers and my over trousers on. So knee wise, yeah, they fit lovely, and also you get quite a bit of protection. This whole riding area is really good. In the wet, it has to be actually pouring down for me to start getting really wet. If it's just light rain or hazy rain, you do stay quite dry, and my arms get it a little bit, but on the whole my body stays quite dry. There's a lot of dust coming off that lorry, cement things and stuff on the back, so that's why probably. So yes, it's a lovely position to ride in. It's very commanding. You can see quite a way ahead over cars, so I like that. I've had VFRs before on various other bikes, and obviously you leant forward a lot more. Not a radical leaning angle, but when I've sat on them recently, and I recently sat on Hayabusa, or Hayabusa, however you say it, the riding position feels quite drastic up to this. So from that point of view is good. Again, vibration wise with the engine, if you stay in too high a gear and you just slowly wind on the throttle, you do feel a bit of vibration, but it soon disappears. The engine is a lumpy engine anyway, but as I said before, I quite like that. It's got linked brakes on this bike. The back brake, I use sintered EBC pads. and I find them reasonably good actually. I just used, I can't remember the manufacturer I used before, but it was just like a normal pad, wasn't sintered. And then I read some reviews and everyone was saying about sintered pads. And funny enough, the fact that you shouldn't really use them in the back brake, but for this bike it's so heavy that it does help. It's safe, so I'm just going to show the back brake. So it does bring you to quite a good stop. I use it a lot in traffic and sometimes trial braking around corners if maybe I've been a bit over exuberant in a corner. The racetrack is open. So as you can see, we're entering Castle Combe, and quite often from my house you can hear the bikes and the cars racing around the track. It's one place I've yet to visit and watch. That's something I'm going to do in the summer. That'll make a good little video. So yeah, the back brake is quite adequate. As I say, I mainly use it in traffic, or if I get a little bit heavy-handed and carried away on some rides and I just need that little bit of stability around a corner. Is good, is a nice brake. It can, at the moment, is sticky, but I think that's more to do with the linked system. I've changed every master cylinder, the one on the brake pedal, the one here, but I didn't realise there's one on the front caliper, even though I look at it when I clean it. I didn't know that that was an actual master cylinder, and that's to do with pushing the middle piston on the back brake for the linked brake. So that's one of the projects I'm going to do, and I'm going to film it, see how it goes. But that's going to wait for slightly warmer weather. The brake only sticks now and again, and I get used to the feel of it, so I'm able to stop and just give the caliper a little bit of a shake, and that stops the brake sticking. Freeze it up. Front brakes are brilliant. I do like the front brakes on this bike. Let's have a look. There's a car behind me, so I can't really show it at the moment. But the front brake has got a good feel to it. I did mention in one of my videos that I had to replace the front discs, so I've got wave discs on there. They cost £450 about 3 years ago, but I have to say they are really good. They made a massive difference up to the standard ones. The standard ones were quite good, but you can really feel a difference with these. They're quite chunky discs. So when I can in a minute, I might just pull over, let this car pass, and I'll do a quick brake test on the front. Busy all day today. Gonna ease over a minute, let this car past. There we go. Thank you. So, as I say, front brakes, we'll just get up to the speed limit and then get round this corner. It's not meant to be, this front brake test. So as I said, we've just gone through Castle Combe. Lovely snowdrops there. Nice bit of road. So we're doing 30, and if I put the front brake on, as you can see, it's good. I like the front brake, and that's with 2 fingers as well. I don't really need to put my whole hand on the lever. 2-finger braking on this bike is great. And at the end of the day, when you're paying attention, you don't really need to grab a massive amount of brake. But yeah, very happy with the brakes. I also use EBC sintered pads on the front as well, and I know they wear your discs out slightly quicker, but that's the price you pay if you want good brakes. Obviously on performance bikes and, you know, more modern bikes, I should imagine the brakes are better again, but for the age of this bike, I'm more than happy. As I say, I've recently taken the rear caliper off because the brakes were sticking, and I put new pads in because I thought it might be the pads are wearing and maybe the pistons are coming out a little bit too far and not going in fully. But the two, it's a 3-pot caliper on the back, and the middle piston, so you've got 3 pistons and the middle piston is the linked system. So when I pull the front lever, the rear brake comes on slightly, and it's that one that is sticking. And I've been reliably informed that that front caliper on the left hand side of the bike has that master cylinder, which I've looked up in the manual, and it does, and that is what activates that middle piston. And I think that master cylinder is slightly worn and it may be sticking. It's creating pressure, and then as the brakes rub and they get hot, it creates more pressure. So that is a job I have to do fairly soon, but like I said, I'm going to wait for it to warm up a little bit. So yes, that's one job. Then again, when I do that, I will have to take the front caliper off, so I'll probably take both calipers off, get some brake cleaner and give them a bit of a, thank you sir, give them a bit of a rub down with a toothbrush, and then that'll keep the llamas and sheep that'll keep the pistons in good order. Suspension wise, he says as he hits some massive potholes, I took the rear spring off, the genuine one, because it started to leak, and my mechanic friend Andy, he purchased a YKK manually adjusting rear shock for me. I could have got the genuine one refurbished, but it was around 3 years ago, and it would have cost £450 to get it refurbished, and it would have taken between 7 and 10 days. Now, as I've said in many of my videos, I use my bike for work. Parking is horrendous, traffic is pretty bad, and I didn't want to wait that long. So Andy, beautiful house there, Andy got me a YKK shock, which has damping adjustment on the spring, and that's the only adjustment it has. It does have, in saying that, it does have height adjustment. You've got 1.5 inches where you can adjust the height of the back of the bike, and that's quite good. I've got it quite high and I ride with it quite firm, and then when I get Stacey, my other half, on the back with all the luggage and we do a little weekend away, I don't have to adjust the suspension. So it's partly laziness, but also on all my bikes, whether it's a sport bike, a road bike, touring bike, I've always had the back springs a little bit hard. I like a firm ride. Don't know why, I just like it. It feels like the bike's more planted on the road. In saying that, I've always had relatively heavy bikes like V4s, or, you know, in the early days, some old an XJ900 drive shaft Yamaha, if anyone remembers those. So I've had some pretty heavy bikes, so I tend to just beef up the springs. In the front, I've put new seals in again about 2-3 years ago, new fork seals, and when I did that I put a heavy duty oil in, but I didn't upgrade the springs. I didn't see the point. I'm quite happy with the way the bike handles. I ride quite quick sometimes, and you know, I love my cornering, but I don't push the bike beyond its limits. So yeah, heavy duty oil and new fork seals, and the front end is fine. And then when Stacey is on the back and we're out riding with all the luggage, it's quite a nice soft ride. I don't tend to go that fast with Stacey on the back anyway, because she likes to sit back and enjoy the ride and the countryside, and it's a different style of riding, so I don't really need the suspension to be that hard and firm for cornering. With the panniers and that on, it's a lovely ride, really pleasant usually. And then when Stacey's not on the bike, it's quite a firm ride, it holds the road well. So yes, the suspension I'm happy with. Even though I've moaned about the weight of this bike, the one thing that is good about the weight of this bike is, as you can see, well, you may not be able to see on my camera, but the road is fairly rippled and undulated and bumpy, and this bike just holds the road so well, so there is an advantage to a little bit more weight. And going through corners, I just make sure I'm set up properly, and it holds the angle and it holds the road lovely even through all the bumps. I don't really get problem of a twitchy bike. I've never had a tank slapper on this bike, so it's absolutely fine. Mud, more mud, at least it's dry. Tyre wise, as I said before, very confident in these tyres. They're not off-road tyres. I run the Road Trial 6s and going around corners in any weather. Very, very happy with the tyres. They have oodles of grip. Just going to pull over here. Again, this is one of the things when you pull over, pick your spots. Bit of an undulating road. It's probably not the best spot, but it's level and I can put the side stand down. One thing I do want to get for this bike is one of those feet you put on the side stand, just to give it more surface to spread the weight. As you can see, I did clean my bike since the last video, which was a couple of days ago, and it is filthy again. The good old Wiltshire roads. I've oiled the chain. There's a little bit of oil on the tyre, so I need to be aware of that. But yes, as you can see, the poor old bike is filthy again. At the moment, I'm kind of cleaning it every couple of days. Look at this countryside though. This is beautiful. Big old house over there. We're still in Wiltshire, and I'm still only 15-20 minutes from home. So there's a big old turret over there. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if that's a house or if that is part of the underground system of the MOD, where they build false buildings. There's quite a few false buildings around Corsham and this part of Wiltshire. There is an actual housing estate which I will ride to and take you on another trip, which is false houses. They were built as a decoy, and now they've been refurbished and plumbed in and everything over the last 20 odd years and made into a housing estate. So it's quite interesting. So yes, back to the bike. It's filthy. It's running well at the moment. Just got the issue with the little sticky brake problem, and then all I do is just give this a bit of a rattle and that frees off that middle piston. And I think the problem, if you can see it, is this. This is a master cylinder here, which I didn't realise. So I got to take that off. This moves when you put the brakes on, and that activates the back brake. And when I take that off, I'm also going to have a look at the front forks, because they look dire need of a respray. But again, I'm not precious. I'm only going to use like a kind of thick hammerite silver, because as soon as you start riding in this weather, it takes chips and chunks out of the paintwork. The wheels are still in quite good condition. The wheels, once they're cleaned, they've actually handled the weather really well. And the rear one is, once it's cleaned, it comes up quite shiny and nice, and there's hardly any scratches or chips in the wheels, so that's good. Tyres are great, like I said. The only thing is with these tyres, and it's more to do with weight than anything, doesn't matter how I have my tyre pressure, these tyres square off slightly, and I'm sure it's the weight. You can see a little bit of red of my spring there, I think, with my helmet cam. And yes, dirty. So it's going to get a good clean. I put new handlebar weights on the end. My other handlebar weights came loose and one fell off, which I didn't realise. So I've put new ones on. Very happy with them. They were 35 quid, I think. And I find the bike shakes a little bit when I haven't got them. So off we go. So one thing with this bike and it's always had it. It's got a tick. It ticks. First of all, I thought it was an exhaust, a leaky exhaust, but it isn't. Then I thought it might be the water pump making a noise, but it's not that. I did think valve clearances and cam change, but no, that's okay, all okay. And it's always had it from day one. It makes a ticking noise. Haven't got a clue what it is, so I've just lived with it. It's never got any worse, it's never got any better. Nothing's broken, and it just ticks. It's quite funny, really. Again, handling on this bike, I've got no problem accelerating through corners and stuff. Again, the weight of it just keeps it planted. Some beautiful roads around here. I really love the roads around here. Really nice. Just got to keep an eye on the speedo, because a lot of roads now are 50 miles an hour. Oh, they're finally knocking down that old house. So, all in all, I've had this bike 6 years. Done numerous things to it in the way of maintenance, replacing bits, and keeping it running. I can't say it's been any less or more expensive than any other bike. Reliability of the bike has been good. In saying that, I try to keep it well maintained, even if it doesn't look pristine. Mechanically it's sound, as far as I'm aware, till something else goes wrong or something else wears out. But like I say, when you ride a bike every day through all weathers, it tells on the bike. It you know, the salt from the salt spreading in the snowy weather, and the snow itself, and the ice gets into little cracks and crevices, and when the ice melts, it can sometimes make things split and make things jam. So yes, general weather conditions in England, in the UK anyway, the damp weather conditions do have a effect on how the bike runs. And I also find with the E10 fuel now, my bike doesn't like the E10 fuel. It should run on it, and it does run on it, but it splutters, and it's not very good at starting in the cold weather when I put E10 in it. So what I tend to do is I tend to use Supreme, and then I tend to use E10 every now and again. Usually when it's towards the end of the month or I'm waiting for payday, is a little bit cheaper, so I tend to use the E10 then. But when I can, I tend to use the E5 Supreme. Sometimes I use supermarket fuel, sometimes I use, you know, Texaco or Esso garages, but with the Supreme fuel I don't really see that much difference. So, don't normally go on motorways, but I'm just going to go down a motorway, give you an idea. Don't know why I sat behind this lorry either. What am I doing? Focus. But hopefully you can tell by my riding that the weight of the bike isn't an issue once you're sort of gone off of stationary. Once you're going off of stationary. Acceleration wise, it's got plenty there. It's 98 or 99 brake horsepower. I don't know the newton meters, that's not important to me. I just know when I twist a small stint on the motorway. It's a really blowy day today, and I got my visor down so that you can hear me better. But just for the sake of showing the front fairing, I'm not actually getting much air in my face. I get a crosswind, especially being behind this lorry, so we'll try and get out in a sec. Lovely. But once I'm free of the lorry, there's no crosswinds blowing in my eyes, and I could quite happily ride like this with my visor up all the way on the motorway. especially in hot weather. So it's comfortable. You don't feel that you are, what's the word I'm looking for? Intimidated by other traffic, because the bike's got a good road presence. It feels big. You feel like you're in I'm just going to put my visor down because it's a blowy day, and I'm sure that it hinders my microphone. The riding cockpit, the riding area is lovely, although I can feel a bit of wind on my elbows and on my shoulders. On the whole, the bike is very good protection with this aftermarket screen on it. You don't get intimidated by larger vehicles because this bike's big, and it tends to feel high. Well, you are high up, so it's not like cars are overtaking you and you're low down and you feel intimidated by them. So I like that aspect of it. As I've said about the comfort, it's very comfortable. I've got no issues with tingling through my hands or feet, even though the bike does have vibrations. They're not the kind of horrible little vibrations that just make everything tingle and make your fingers tingle and your toes tingle. So that's quite good. I think you could ride this bike fully, well, I have ridden this bike fully loaded with a passenger for hours, almost a day at one time. And even if your destination takes you on a couple of hours of motorway, which I did last year with my other half on the back, it was more than comfortable. The thing that's bad about motorway is dealing with the boredom. So yeah, the actual riding position and the way the bike handles is very stable on the motorway. You could probably hear how blowy it is through the microphone, and if you can't, you just have to trust me that it is quite a windy day. And the bike isn't getting blown around. I'm not having to adjust my riding position. I'm not finding myself getting blown on the other side of the lane. It's really stable. It's one place where the weight is good, I suppose. So from the point of view for cruising for hours, if you were after a bike to use to cruise on, to do long journeys or even go abroad on, I mean, parts are still available for this bike. It's things like fairings and mudguards that are the bits that aren't no longer available, but engine parts, brake pads, exhaust bits, exhausts themselves aren't available, but there's plenty of aftermarket end cans. The only thing you would struggle to get is the actual downpipes, but I'm sure if you went to a manufacturer, you know, I recently rang a car exhaust maker and they said if I took the exhausts along they could make me a set, and that would probably be about 350 quid, which is probably a lot cheaper than the original ones. So yes, you know, you could go abroad on this thing, you could ride throughout the UK on it, you could do all day journeys. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the most I've ridden before I've had a break is about 3.5 hours, which is probably on par with a car. And then you stop and have a coffee and a snack, and then you get on again. You can ride another 3.5 hours, but there is no reason to stop on this bike. You don't feel uncomfortable. It's not a struggle to ride in this weather, even though it's windy, like I keep saying. So as an all-round tourer, you know, it would be more than enough. And prices for these bikes, you're looking at around 3,500 for, I think it's a 2019 version, which is possibly the latest one they did. I'm not sure, I got to look that up. But yeah, you excuse me, you can pick one of these up fully loaded with panniers and top box, crash bars, extra lights, heated grips for around £3,500, and you would get a good quality bike for that. These bikes are normally looked after well by their owners. They're kind of a little niche market, I suppose, because they're a bit unusual looking. They're not a well-known touring bike. I'm not even sure if they were publicised when they first come out as an adventure touring bike. you know, an off-roader. I mean, the weight is on par with BMW GS and possibly the drive shaft Triumph, so it's a heavy old beast, so you'd have to be pretty confident and fairly strong to take it off-road, I would have thought. But there are people who do take them off-road and do tour around countries, so it's not impossible. It wouldn't be my personal favourite to take off-road. It's too heavy for me for that purpose. I've only had to lift this bike up twice, I think, maybe 3 times, because it my foot slipped when I was stationary. Luckily it's not because I've actually slid down the road. I just actually had to lay the bike down because I got beyond that leaning angle that I could support it. And one of the times somebody helped me pick it up, the other time I picked it up myself, and it was a struggle even without panniers on. I should imagine if you're riding this bike fully loaded off-road and it falls, you'd have to take everything off it to lift it. And also you've got side mounted radiators on this, so I don't think that's ideal for off-roading. I mean, you've got the crash bars on the side there, but the radiators are just there and there, so if it falls and something like a stick goes up through, you could end up puncturing a radiator, which when you're off-road could be a disaster. Anyway, I've not ridden off-road, so that would be the extent of my experience. Is just a guess really, but when you watch the videos and you see these people just fall and drop their bikes and stuff, which is inevitable obviously, side mounted radiators I would have thought aren't the greatest idea. So enough about that, I digressed. As I say, back to touring. You get a lot of bike for your money. 3,500, and that would get you one probably below the 50,000 mile mark. On average they've got around 35,000 on them. Would I buy another one? Yes, I would. I would consider buying a later model if it had less mileage and it was fully kitted. As I say, I bought this one for 3,100 6 years ago, and this had 19,000 miles on it, so you know, it was pretty low mileage when I had it, and for sort of a 16-year-old bike I would say it's still pretty much good mileage. It's high for a bike I suppose, but for an all-day everyday bike, 53,000, that's not bad. So guys, if you are interested in one of these as a second-hand machine, as I said, I use it as my day-to-day bike. It's my only bike, and it's done me proud. The only actual breakdown I had, which I remembered as I was riding, was my clutch cable went. Some unknown reason on this bike I've gone through 2 clutch cables within a year and a half, I think it was. Don't know why. As I say, I keep it maintained. I do put a bit of oil down the clutch cable every now and again just to keep it lubed up, and it's got this little rubber cover on the actual adjuster, so not much water gets down there. Whether it gets dry, because it snaps down where the engine is, so whether it actually gets dry and that helps it wear or not, I don't know. But as I say, I did go through 2 clutch cables, so I bought an aftermarket clutch cable. The original snapped when it got to about 36,000 miles, I think, and then I bought an aftermarket one for a tenner, and that snapped within a year. So for a tenner, I suppose, I don't know what I was expecting. Petrol station I need, and then I decided to spend, I think it was 15 quid on a clutch cable, and it's meant to be Teflon lined. So whether it is or not, I don't know. But it says it is, and it's meant to give it good wearing properties, so hopefully it should last. So my reserve light come on as I was on the motorway there, so I know I got around 30 miles and to my destination is going to be 16 miles, but if I can find a petrol station first I will fill up. Roads are very slippery and greasy today. I don't know if it shows on the camera again, but very shiny, muddy roads. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed my review of my bike, and if you happen to be thinking of getting one of these second hand, I hope it has given you some information to sway your decision one way or the other. For me, I found it a brilliant bike, so I'll leave you to be the judge of that, and the way it looks is kind of a personal thing. I like the angular looks of mine, and I love the blue colour, so for me it's just right. So as I say, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and that'll help me improve my channel as time goes on and get better cameras, etc. And I will hopefully speak to you soon. If you'd like to leave any comments or ask any questions, please do, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Cheers guys, bye bye.